In Venezuela, the head of state, Nicolás Maduro, denounced the United States seizure of a ship carrying oil as a serious crime under international law and treaties that are binding on all states. More than 3 weeks after the general elections in Honduras, the National Electoral Council began the sequential counting on Thursday of thousands of voting records with inconsistencies. And Russian President Vladimir Putin denounced as an outright robbery the European Union's attempts to seize the country's assets. Hello and welcome to From the South. My name is Belén de los Santos. I'm from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We'll begin with the news. We begin with the information. In Venezuela, the head of state, Nicolás Maduro, denounced the United States seizure of a ship carrying oil as a serious crime under international law and treaties that are binding on all states. During his speech, the president recalled that the 1958 international agreements against piracy, as well as the subsequent treaties of 1982, classified the armed assault of a ship carrying any goods as a serious crime that must be condemned by the international community. In this context, the president indicated that the time has come for loyalty and maximum national unity among all Venezuelans to defend the land, oil, and the right to future. On the other hand, President Nicolás Maduro also presented the people of Miranda State and Caracas with the total and comprehensive rehabilitation of the Mariche Metro Cable system, which connects communities in the Petare North neighborhood with the capital's underground metro system.
And after the Second World War in 1958, that the first international treaty signed by all of the governments of the world was approved, so it is an obligation of all of the governments of the world to qualify piracy as a serious crime in high sea and by punishing it severely. So what they did with the private ship that was taking the petroleum that had already been paid in Venezuela to commerce it in its markets, it is a serious crime at the light of international law that is public and of the treaty of obligatory fulfillment by all of the states. We are in our law. And I say, Venezuela is going to continue its path. We're going to continue producing the 14 engines, and all of the products that are sold in Venezuela will continue going out to the international market because we're a country that is free, and we will guarantee the free commerce of Venezuela, of the Caribbean, and of all of South America.
And likewise, the Venezuelan president, following international law, described any armed assault on a ship in international waters as an act of piracy and banditry.
International law condemns as crimes, according to the agreements of 1998 against the piracy and international treaties that came from that of recent years, of the year 82. They qualify the armed assault of a ship of any kind of good as a serious crime that must be condemned. It was centuries of piracy. This similarity between a pirate and a corsair is that they're both criminals. Let's start from the most simple answer. There were criminals, and wherever they exist, they are criminals. They do very serious crimes. There are stealers among others. They are the assaultants of the path. They are delinquents.
And in this context, the Venezuelan head of state called for maximum national unity to defend the country's sovereignty.
Hesitating in defending our richness in minerals is treason. Hesitating in defending our sovereignty and our right to peace is treason. hesitating and repudiating the mafia of the criminal that calls invade Venezuela and to take the richness of us, hesitating and treason. It is time of loyalty, of bravery, of patriotism, and of the maximum national union of all of the Venezuelan men and women to defend our land, our richness, our wealth, our petroleum, our people, our present, and the right to the future as well. So it is a continuity, a heroic continuity.
And a recent study conducted in Venezuela revealed a broad majority consensus rejecting any attempt at foreign appropriation of the country's strategic resources. More information on this, a report carried out by the Data Viva polling company confirmed that 97% of those surveyed support the principle of sovereignty over oil and natural resources and reject external pressure mechanisms. Likewise, it also revealed that naval blockades are rejected by 92% of the population, who perceive them as illegitimate pressure against the country. On the other hand, the study showed that in the face of the allegations, such as the one about Venezuela being a foreign terrorist organization, the predominant reaction is one of closing ranks to defend the nation, with 90% rejection as well. In relation with threats of a foreign military attacks, 90% of public opinion is overwhelmingly in favor of rejecting intervention and supporting national defense. And in the scenario from Russia, U.S. journalists expressed their solidarity with Venezuela amid the ongoing threats from the Trump administration.
Muchos estadounidenses quieren paz, no quieren la guerra con Venezuela. En este momento la administración Trump está presionando por una guerra basada en la doctrina Monroe y en años y siglos de opresión y hegemonía en Latinoamérica. El pueblo de los Estados Unidos entiende que la paz es la única opción que necesitamos. Tener buenas relaciones con todos los países de la región, con América del Norte, Central, del Sur y el Caribe. Los estadounidenses deben saber, Venezuela tiene muchos amigos en toda América y alrededor del mundo que se oponen al imperialismo estadounidense, resistir la agresión y las guerras estadounidenses. Y el pueblo de Estados Unidos, si entiende, lo hace su país, no solo en Venezuela, sino también en Palestina, en Gaza.
And Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva said on Thursday that he could act as a bridge between Venezuela and the United States to avoid an armed confrontation in the region.
I had the opportunity to speak with President Maduro for almost 40 minutes. Then I spoke with President Trump about the Venezuela issue. I told Trump about Brazil's concern with Venezuela, because this is a son of peace, not a son of war. I told him that things would not be resolved by shooting, that it was better to sit down at a table to find a solution. No one has ever said specifically, but it's necessary to wage this war. I don't know if the interest is only in Venezuela's oil. I don't know if the interest is in critical minerals. I don't know if the interest is in rare earth elements. The fact is that no one is putting what they want on the table. I told President Maduro that if he wanted Brazil to help in any way, he had to say what he would like us to do. And I told Trump that if he believes Brazil can contribute, we are very interested in talking to Venezuela and talking to him, and talking to other countries to avoid an armed confrontation.
And on Thursday, the Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva confirmed his intention to veto the sentencing bill known as the dosimetry law, approved by the National Congress. This law reduces sentences for those convicted of the coup attempt on January 8th of the year 2023. The law could directly benefit former President Jair Bolsonaro, now sentenced to 27 years and 3 months in prison for his participation in anti-democratic acts. In this context, President Lula da Silva said that he would veto the bill if it reached his desk. The bill, denounced as an amnesty for the coup plotters, was approved on Wednesday in the Congress with 48 votes in favor and 25 against, after having been given the green light in the Chamber of Deputies the previous week. Now we have a short break coming up, but first, remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back from the South. We continue with more information. More than 3 weeks after the general elections in Honduras, the National Electoral Council, the CNE, began special counting on Thursday of thousands of voting records reported to have inconsistencies. The president of the CNE, Ana Hall, representative of the Liberal Party, reported that the special recount will begin in the presence of national and international observers. During the recount, 2,792 ballots with inconsistencies from the November 30th elections marked by allegations of fraud will be reviewed. According to some analysts, the correction could change the results released so far by the electoral arbiter, which show a close race between the National Party's presidential candidate, Nasri Asfura, and the Liberal Party's candidate, Salvador Nasralla. In the scenario, the analysis of the results revealed technical inconsistencies that call into question the integrity of the process. According to official data, the total of the three major parties barely reaches 91.49%, leaving an inexplicable statistical gap in the final count. The report of 7,040,159 votes cast presents an improbable disconnection from the registered electoral roll. These discrepancies, both in the percentages and in the number of votes, go beyond human error and suggest that either a critical failure in the computer systems or deliberate manipulation of the database. And on Thursday in the United States, a plane crashed at the North Carolina airport and resulted in the death of at least 7 people. The Federal Aviation Administration reported that the accident occurred after the aircraft attempted to land at the regional airport in Statesville. The agency also confirmed that the airport has been closed and that an investigation is underway to determine the causes of the crash. According to state police reports, among the deceased are former NASCAR driver Greg Biffle, his wife, and their 2 children. We continue in the United States. After 5 days of intense searching involving several federal agencies, the suspect in the deadly shooting at Brown University in Rhode Island State was found dead on Thursday, apparently having committed suicide. According to Providence Police Chief Oscar L. Perez Jr., the alleged perpetrator of the mass shooting at Brown University was found dead on Thursday night after taking his own life. The man was identified as Claudio Neves Valente, a 48-year-old Portuguese citizen and former Brown student. The Rhode Island Attorney General Peter Naroña said that according to reports, the body was found in a warehouse in Salem, New Hampshire, alongside a bag, 2 firearms, and evidence matching the crime scene.
The individual was identified as Claudio Neves Valente, date of birth, and he was a 48-year-old man. He was a Brown student, he was a Portuguese national, and his last known address was in Miami, Florida. And I will tell you that he took his own life tonight. We have members of the Providence Police Department up in Salem, New Hampshire, and we also have the BCI unit. Obviously, the FBI and their evidence recovery unit is up there, so the process is being conducted as we speak.
And in other news, in Bulgaria, thousands of people protested in several cities across the country demanding fair elections and an independent judiciary. The protest began last week in response to the government's budget plans, which involve higher taxes and increased spending. In this scenario, although the government withdrew the proposal for 2026, the political crisis worsened after the cabinet resigned, and now the president is expected to appoint an interim government and announce the date for early parliamentary elections. In response, the protesters are demanding a new budget as the economic measures have left the country without resources for next year and without a regular government just weeks before the nation joins the Eurozone.
We demand free and fair elections and a new budget. For the third time, they are trying to pass the same budget proposal. We also ask the same political figures that all of Bulgaria is protesting against, Delian Pivsky, Boyko Borisov, and their circle to leave us alone. People are willing to take the streets even during the holidays. We are willing to be here every night if it's necessary. We will not give up. Urgent change is needed.
We have a second short break coming up now, but before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverages, and much more. Follow the page and activate notifications to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break. Don't go away. Welcome back. On Friday, Russian President Vladimir Putin denounced as an outright robbery the European Union's attempts to seize the country's assets. More information on this during his year-end press conference headlined results of the year. The Russian head of state stressed that what the regional bloc is trying to do constitutes an open robbery that goes beyond a theft, since the attempts to steal the property are not covert. In this regard, Putin also warned that the seizure would undermine trust in the Eurozone, since many other countries also keep their gold and currency reserves in the continent. Let's recall that the European Union has been debating tapping Russian central bank funds that are estimated around $246 billion as part of what they are calling a reparations loan to Ukraine, an idea that has faced mounting resistance from several member states, which argue that the move risks undermining the bloc's legal foundations.
Theft is the hidden seizure of property, but in this case, they are trying to do it openly. That's a robbery. But why can't they carry out this robbery? Because the consequences could be severe for the robbers.
Последствия могут быть тяжелые для грабителей.
And the Russian government expressed its deep concern on Thursday about the recent joint military exercises between Japan and the United States in the vicinity of its territory. Moscow warned about the dangers of Japanese militarization and defense spending, factors that destabilize and escalate tensions in the Asia-Pacific region. Russian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Maria Zakharova reported that the official position had been convened to the Japanese ambassador in Moscow. During the diplomatic meeting, Lyudmila Borovyova, director of the Third Asian Department, emphasized the Kremlin's rejection of the Japanese and U.S. Air Force exercises conducted on December 10th in border areas. And on Thursday, Japanese prosecutors demanded life imprisonment for Tetsuya Yamagami, accused of killing former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe in 2022 with a homemade weapon at the conclusion of the trial that began in October. From the outset of the trial, the man accepted responsibility for the crime that shocked the world in the year 2022. Tetsuya Yamagami, 45 years old, admitted to committing the murder before the Nara District Court during the first first hearing. Following his arrest, the defendant underwent a 6-month psychiatric evaluation and was declared fit to stand trial. The murder occurred while Abe was delivering a speech in support of candidates from the ruling Liberal Democratic Party, the organization through which he became prime minister from 2006 to 2007 and from 2012 to 2020. And with a 25 basis point increase, the Bank of Japan raised interest rates on Friday to around 0.75%, their highest level in 3 decades. The Bank of Japan's board unanimously decided on this shift in monetary policy after years of ultra-low interest rates seeking to contain inflationary pressures and stabilize the economy. According to the financial institution, its experts expect real interest rates to remain significantly negative and accommodative financial conditions to continue to strongly support economic activity. In an attempt to normalize the economy of the Asian nation, the Bank of Japan has gradually withdrawn a decade of massive stimulus since 2024. Japan has kept interest rates low for about 30 years and amid persistent deflation. And at this moment, we go to Palestine because on Friday, Israel launched a series of attacks against the cities of Honduras and Rafah in the southern Gaza Strip, continuing the violations of the ceasefire agreement that came into effect on October 11th of this year. Israeli fighter jets bombed eastern Honduras, and occupation forces opened fire with automatic weapons on western neighborhoods. In addition, Zionist warships opened fire intensively on coastal areas of Rafah and on fishing boats at sea. In this context, the Palestinian authorities warned that the humanitarian situation in Gaza is becoming increasingly precarious due to the Israeli blockade and weather conditions as well. According to the latest figures from the Gaza Health Ministry, the total number of people killed since the ceasefire began has risen to 395, with a further 1,088 people that were wounded and 634 bodies that were recovered from the rubble. And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Also join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok as well. For TeleSUR English, my name is Belén de los Santos. Thank you for watching.